Hello everyone and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I am sharing a birthday card where I'm using one of the newly released digital stamps from Rachelle Anne Miller called My First Moth Ball. Isn't she adorable? I decided to print it on Transotype Perfect coloring paper. That is a paper that I tend to use whenever I am coloring with my Copic markers. And I'm first going to color in this image, then I will try to figure out the background, but I already decided for myself that this was going to be a birthday card and I wanted to add the word party on top of this panel. So therefore I die cut the image into this panel on the lower half of the panel so that I had a lot of space on top to add a sentiment. So whenever I'm coloring with Copics, I think you already know, but I start with the areas that I find the hardest to color in. For me, that is hair and skin tone. And although I'm always or almost always using the same combination for the skin tone, even though it keeps being difficult to get that blend that I want and the depth, so therefore I started with the skin first. Next I did the hair, and I must admit that was a struggle as well. The lovely thing about the hairstyle that Rachelle Anne Miller does is that you have these guidelines. She already draws in quite a few lines, which helps you determine how that hairline is going to be or what was intended. And for me personally, that really helps me with the coloring whenever I want to do this streak kind of method with some flicking. Here it went a bit everywhere, of course, but I like how it turned out in the end. I went for quite a soft color. I went for some sort of a blonde slash light brown hair color. Really simple, with one of my favorite combinations that I use all the time for browns being E33, E53 and E51. Whenever I need to, I go back in a second, a third, a fourth time. In this case, I just wanted a bit more depth, and so therefore I just went in. Sometimes I will also stop with the hair after one layer, or sometimes I add 3, 4, even 5 if needed. But here I thought it quite looked nice like this. Then for the colors all over, first of all the bear. I will do it in brown. I really love brown critters. I also have warm grays and cold grays, but I tend to grab towards my brown markers the most. It's a bit warmer as well, so therefore almost every critter gets a brown tone whenever I can. So here as well, there are quite a lot of details in this image, like the moths themselves, also the tie on the bear and such, and the feathers on the moths. Whenever I went into the areas that I didn't intend to go inside of, I didn't stop right there. I just went later on back in with my colorless blender to fix those tiny hiccups. And then for the main colors, I decided to go with purple today. Purple as in I have 4 markers that I will use, and I will just differentiate in the combinations that I'm doing with these 4 markers. So sometimes you just don't need a lot and you will still see quite a lot of different combinations on this image, but it's all with the same 4 markers. Just depending on the area, I left out 1 or 2 and just continued like that. So as I said here, I'm just fixing those tiny mistakes. It depends. Whenever I know that I will use a darker marker, I most of the time don't mind because it will be covered up by the darker marker. But in case you're not sure, or it might be that you have a lighter marker that will not cover it completely, just use a colorless blender first and then you're ready to go whenever you're starting with the other combination on top. So for the purple markers, I'm using the 17, 15, 05 and 01, which gives you quite a soft purple, but at the same time there is quite a big difference between the darkest and the lightest marker, which is a strength, I think, of this combination. And so I'm just working my way through this image. I wanted the underdress, if you can call it like that, to be a bit darker, and then the one that is on top to be lighter. So there you will definitely see the V01 returning. I also used all of these purple markers for all of the details, like the tie, like the feathers, like the moths. I thought it worked quite well. But of course you can go crazy if you want to, you can do a rainbow if you want to. I first wanted to create some sort of a Cinderella kind of vibe. But actually this weekend when I created this card, I also had quite a lot of fun creating other cards. I have never had a weekend like this where I created this amount of cards since 2021. So I was so happy this weekend after creating a bunch of cards. The move is getting closer, so at a certain point I will be without craft supplies for like maybe a month, depending on how quickly we can install everything in the new house. So I'm already regretting that, but weekends like this really cheer me up, and so I have quite a lot of inspiration coming. I just need to edit everything and get it ready for you to share. But there are more new digital stamps released by Rachelle Anne Miller, and I of course created something with every new digital stamp. So I think even though normally I share 2-3 projects with Rachelle Anne Miller's designs, that I might do a bit more this month and also the beginning of next month, just because I had a lovely weekend filled with Rachelle Anne Miller critters and images. So I want to share all of that with you, and I hope that I can cover this way a bit of the period that I will not be able to craft, and so that you can still have something to see here on my channel. So I'm looking forward to editing everything and sharing all of the inspiration, because truly these new digital stamps are amazing. And I already played a few weekends ago with some older sets, so yeah, I hope that you will enjoy it all. But I already used I'm sort of moving away from my original thing that I wanted to say, but I wanted to say that originally I wanted to do some kind of a Cinderella kind of theme, but I have another card that I made before this one with some blues, so I didn't want to repeat myself too much all at the same time, so I kept the blue for the other card that I will hopefully share next week, in 2 weeks, I don't know, but it will be coming. So here, as I said, all of the accessories get that purple color, but how many combinations do you see here? I think there are quite a lot. There are enough to really let every element of this image stand out, in my opinion. So that was what I was going for. And then with this coloring, I decided to first do the background before I did the stars. I printed the image on just a regular printer paper thingy, and I fussy cut it out, which is quite simple if the paper is really thin because of the regular printer paper. And so I just used my temporarily dot adhesive thingy to adhere it, and then I'm going to use this bubble background stencil from Fawn, and I decided to make it a bit more festive, adding a bit of these bubbles or light bubbles, or however you want to see it, on the background, mostly on top. And I'm using shaded lilac, and I will also take out the Seedless Preserves Distress ink, really soft ink blending. I didn't want it to overpower the image that I've colored in. The purple on the image itself is quite soft, so I wanted the same kind of purplish vibe on the background. So I wiggled a bit this second stencil around, and then I just went for it. Seedless Preserves, a bit of that lighter purple, more pinkish purple that we also have in a combination thanks to the V05. And I'm just playing around with it. I thought there were a few lacking on the bottom part of my panel that I will add as soon as possible, but I removed the paper, maybe a bit too soon, but I was really careful while adding a few more bubbles here. Just adding 2 more on the bottom half, just to have it fade out a bit more into that white area, and there as well, just really soft. So now let's color in those stars. I am going to use some yellow. I contemplated whether I had to add some purple as well, but maybe the yellow just makes them stand out just enough with all of the purples around it. Plus, yellow and purple, they really reinforce each other, so therefore I was convinced this was going to work. And then I also had to create some sort of a grounding. I did it really simple. I took some E40s, E41 and E40, and I just used my T-square ruler to have the grounding a bit straight, and then I just started flicking, and I will fade that flicking out with some more flicking with the E40. So just a bit scribbling here and there. I'm not a pro in this, but I just needed a little bit of grounding. And then it is time to work on that sentiment. As I said in the beginning, I wanted to add party, so I'm going to do that. And therefore I took Eggplant cardstock. It's from Concord the 9th, and I thought that it matched well with the darkest purple in my coloring. And I also took the Henry's ABCs from Fawn, a really fun script, I think. And with the masked ball, I thought that would go perfectly. So I'm just going to say party. You can also add a secondary sentiment if you want to. But I couldn't really recall a sentiment that could help me with that from any other set that I have. I probably have one, but I just thought that a party would stand out enough. This die set is quite big, the script, so it worked. And I started aligning them. I'm going to add them straight. A bit wiggly would have been fun as well. But I just went for straight, clean. So I took my T-square ruler and I'm trying to sort of have everything aligned so that the edges are sort of spaced exactly the same on the right and the left side, where the sentiment is starting and ending. And then the most fun part of this card, which makes the card, in my opinion, really spectacular, is the way that I embellish the sentiment. It's something that I saw done by Julia. She's the brain behind Craft Room Adventures, and she did that on like a really big word from Fawn. She added like this glitter mostly on the bottom of the sentiment, but I was just too impatient, so I ended up adding it completely on top of all of the letters just until the top. So you will see that in a bit. So I started by adding glossy accents to the letters, which is part 1. Glossy accents, you can stop after that. It really emphasizes that word and it shines, so it's perfect. But then I took, as Julia did, the chunky glitter from Fawn. I contemplated adding the Prisma glitter, but that was really fine, and with a party it can be a bit more, I think, so I added the chunky glitter. Therefore, a tip, add a piece of paper, printer paper underneath, so that you can funnel it back into that jar. That saved me quite a lot of glitter, but then later on I cleaned up the words, well, the letters, without a piece of paper underneath, so I had to throw away a bit of glitter. So first I thought I'm going to add it on the bottom of the letters, and then I went all the way, I took some more glitter and really added it on top of this panel. Then I started tapping it off, but of course not everything came loose. It was a bit sticking towards, well, on top of the panel. So I used several items to help me get rid of the glitter. My reverse tweezers, a craft knife, a paintbrush, anything that worked. Also just letting it sit aside helped me as well, because this way, well, everything could come loose a bit. But you will see me here, well, fixing things with a paintbrush, and everything went, of course, on my craft mat. I think for the upcoming weeks I will still have some glitter here and there peeking from underneath, but I really love how it turned out, so that's good. So once I had removed quite a lot of glitter more, and this one I also threw away, I checked whether it was dry, the glossy accents underneath, and then I added a new layer glossy accents. This is how Julia fixated the glitter underneath, and I think it's genius. There was a bit of glossy accents going everywhere, just remove that with any tool that I have that will fit that area where it's oozing. And I went back to it quite a lot because, well, glossy accents, once it's going somewhere, it just tends to return there every time, again and again, even if you remove it. So I didn't keep filming because there was just a lot of repetition, but I kept removing glossy accents wherever it was oozing with my tools that I had on hand. And then once that is dry, this card is completely finished. I am so amazed by the sentiment. I really think it's a lot of fun to add these glitters to your sentiment. It is a lot of glitter everywhere as well, but it is worth it. I really, really love how this sentiment helps this card shine. So that is my card for today. Some first inspiration with the newly released my first mothball digital stamp from Rachelle Anne Miller. I hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope that you will check out the new digis because they are just fabulous. And I want to thank you all for stopping by, taking the time to watch this video. If you enjoyed it, you can always give it a thumbs up. I would truly appreciate it. I want to thank you all for stopping by and taking the time to watch this video. I wish you an incredible day, and I'll be back soon with some new crafty inspiration. Bye!